What is going on, YouTube? This is Paris, and I'm back with another video, and we're looking at the Division 2, the Warlords of New York expansion. And recently, I had a chance to finally get through the campaign. Kind of been a busy week for me, so I finally was able to get through the campaign. And once I got through the campaign, got to level 40, I was like, all right, let's jump into this new recalibration station and this recalibration library that I've heard so many great things about. Ironically enough, as I was going through this, I tweeted about it, and someone was like, hey, Paris, have you seen a great video about this to explain it? And I'm like, no, I haven't. Why don't I make my own video? So here we go. This is my very first time going through the recalibration library myself, and let's just do a little video on it. So edit it out so you don't see me standing on a blank screen going, oh, what should I do? But right here, we're going into the recalibration library, and I'm starting to take a look at my attributes that I have on various weapons. So here we go with the assault rifle, and I'm looking at my assault rifle damage, and the police M4 is my highest damage that I have of my assault rifle. So I'm going to extract that attribute, and then I'm going to put it into my recalibration library. So what that's going to do is now I have a 12% attribute available to me for assault rifles once I go to my recal station and I want to change some of the attributes and perks on there. Now you can see I'm looking at health damage, and even though the honey badger has the highest attribute, I don't want to get rid of my honey badger, because once you extract an attribute, it takes it away. So I'm taking it from the G3, which was the second highest I had at 4.5%. Now that will be available to me in my recal library. So as I move over here to SMGs, you can see I'm looking at my critical hit chance, and the Tommy gun has 10.5%. So again, that is my highest critical hit chance. It's not a gun that I want to keep, so I'm going to extract that attribute, so I will have that available to me in my recal library. So if I want to go to an SMG later and do a recal on that particular attribute, I can pull it now from the library. And as you can see, I'm pulling that there. So there you go. Now I'm going to go into more attributes here on SMG, and as you can see, my enhanced AUG, the SMG damage is the most that I have at 12%. So I'm going to extract that attribute, and now that will be available to me in my recal library as well. Hope all this is making sense. I found it to be pretty intuitive once you kind of you have to just jump in and do it. And once you jump in and do it, it gets pretty intuitive. So as you can see, I did that as well. So now I am looking at other attributes that I can pull from SMG as you can see here, I'm scrolling down, trying to take a look and see what else is available. So I see I have another extraction available, and it looks like my optimal range. So out of this AUG, I can pull a 13% optimal range. So I'm grabbing that attribute, and now that will be available to me in my library. And as you can see here, rate of fire is at 1.7%. It's not super high, but it is an attribute that for a gun that I'm not going to use, so I can break that gun down, grab that attribute. Now that will be available to my library when I have another SMG that I may want to use in the future, and pull that attribute and put it on it. So as you can see now, I'm scrolling over talents, because that is something else you can do. So now I'm looking at LMG. So I'm going to go to LMG, basically the same thing that I did with the assault rifle. In the SMG, I'm going to go through, look for my highest damage, and I'm just scrolling down. This shows you all the weapons that are available. And the Stoner LMG has my highest damage, but I don't want to use that, right? So I'm going to scroll down, and I look at the second LMG, the RPK. I don't want to pull it from there either, because I look and I see my critical hit chance is a higher perk that I want to pull out for that particular weapon, and put that into my recal library. So I'm actually going to go to my third option here, and I'm going to grab it from there, which is 6%. And this is just so I can actually have an LMG damage perk in there. If I find a higher one later on a gun that I don't want, I'll do it there. So, and now you'll see I'm going to scroll over, look for another attribute. I have more available here. And this is where I am taking damage to target out of cover. So again, don't want to use it from my top two guns, so I'm going to pull it from the third one, and I'll pull that attribute out as well. Again, all these, once you pull an attribute, it breaks down the gun. That attribute is now available to you in your recal library. Now we go to the critical hit damage. Like I said, I could see I had that. I didn't want to pull out my stoner. I wanted to pull it out of the RPK. So now I'm grabbing that out of the RPK. So now that attribute also is available to me. So now let's take a look at talents. So here's a talent that I have on a LMG that a gun that I don't want to use or I don't need. So I'm going to pull that talent out. And now that talent is also going to be available for me to use later on in my recal library. And here's another one, this M60. I'll grab the steady handed talent, extract that. That'll be available in the library. And for some reason, I'm super slow doing this one, but this is where I was kind of just reading things, trying to make sure I understood what was going on. And as you can see now, I'm dismantling and pulling that talent out. And then the ignited talent, this is from a black market RPK. Again, gun that I was not going to use. So let's just pull that talent. So now that talent will be available to me later. Let's say that the stoner LMG that I have, what if I want to put ignited on it later on? I'll be able to do that because now that is going to, as you can see, I'm looking at the stoner talent. I'm not going to pull the talent out of that because I don't want to break down this gun. I want to keep it. So I will wait until I find another gun with that talent and then I can extract it later on. And then basically same thing again. Here we go where I actually have a God roll for the marksman rifle damage. It is at max 15%. And I'm going to grab that attribute. So now I have a quote unquote God roll attribute available to me, the maximum that will be in my recal library. So if I go through later with rifles and I want to make sure I have max damage, that is going to be available to me. And you can see I'm looking at headshot damage here. It's not a God roll, but it's pretty high at 79%. I'm going to grab that as well. And you see here with magazine size, 9.5%. Again, it's a rifle I'm not going to use. Break it down. I'll grab that attribute. So now I have that magazine size attribute available to me. And then we go through, we look at talents. So again, I'm able to grab that talent from that rifle, break it down. That'll be available to me. Ignited, same thing. That'll be available to me as well. So again, I hope all this kind of makes sense. I think for me, and I'll go through a little more here, but I'll just kind of end this by talking about just the recal library overall. To me, this is the future of what these type of shooters like the Division, Destiny, things like that need to do, because it makes loot exciting. Because now every time I pick up a weapon or a piece of gear, even if it's not a piece of gear that I'm going to use because I have a gun or a piece of gear that's better, there may be an attribute or talent on there that I can take to this recal library and I can extract. So it makes everything that drops to you useful now. And now that chase for the quote unquote God roll, I can basically make my own God roll for the weapon or piece of gear that I choose. Because once I find the quote unquote God roll attribute, I extract it from there, I put that in my library, and it's going to be available to me for whatever piece of gear I want. So it's going to make builds a lot of fun now, and it's going to make that chase inside the world every time something drops. It's exciting because is this the one where it has that attribute that I want, that attribute that I could use, that I need to make the perfect build for me while I'm playing in the Division 2. So I take my hat off to Massive. I think this was a genius move by them, and this is absolutely what the game needs. So this is Paris. Thank you guys for checking this out, and I'll see you soon.